Hey guys, welcome back to my channel Foodish Beauty. If you're new, my name is TJ and I upload weekly beauty and lifestyle videos. Now this week I have a much anticipated review for you guys. I recently purchased the Jeffree Star Beauty Killer palette and a lot of you guys saw that on Snapchat and really highly requested me to do this review. But first of all, just as a little disclaimer, I do purchase everything I review on this channel with my own money unless otherwise stated. And also this review is going to be about this palette and this palette alone. So if you would like to see a very unbiased and objective review of this palette and this palette alone, then please do keep on watching. First of all, I'm just going to talk briefly about how I got hold of this palette, being that I live in the UK. And if you live elsewhere in the world, then please do skip to where I review and swatch the eyeshadows themselves. So for those who are interested, I purchased this palette directly from the Jeffree Star Cosmetics website and it came in at the price of $45, and the international shipping fee to the UK I believe was around about $10. But one thing to look out for is definitely the custom charges as well as the Royal Mail holding fee. My parcel was flagged down by the custom charges, so I had to pay 20% VAT on top of the existing price, which came in at £6.40, and also £8 to Royal Mail for holding my package ransom until I paid that price. I couldn't get my package. So you do need to look out for those two additional fees on top of the actual price of the palette. But other than that, there wasn't any more complications to get this palette here to my address in the UK. Now moving on to the actual palette, starting with packaging. This is a very standard cardboard packaging with magnetic closings on 4 corners of the palette. It also comes with a full-sized mirror on one half of the palette, and as you can see it also folds in half for convenience in application too. Cardboard packaging is definitely a bit of hit and miss for different people. For me personally, I like the fact that they are all biodegradable, and also with it being that much thinner and lighter, they usually render the palettes a little bit more travel friendly. Inside you get 10 very vibrant eyeshadows, each weighing in at 0.09 ounces, which is 2.52 grams. Now just for comparison, the full-size Makeup Geek eyeshadows each come in at 0.064 ounces, which is 1.8 grams. So as far as quantity is concerned, you do get a lot of product for your money. Now let's move on to the most important stuff, which is the swatching of the shades. For accuracy, the first swatch you will see using my finger is swatched on my bare arm without any primers, and then the second swatch you will see in the cutout clips is using a brush, and then they are applied on my arms on top of a primer. I will be swatching these in horizontal orders. So to start with, we have the shade Star Power. This is a matte vivid pink, very in your face and very daring. It is super pigmented, so it does have the potential to stain your brushes or even your eyelids, but I did find all of the traces of this eyeshadow was removed after my double cleansing routine at night. The formula of this matte eyeshadow is slightly on the drier side, but nevertheless it is finely milled enough to be extremely pigmented, so I do like this one very much. I don't have anything in my collection that is so true to pan as a vivid pink. Next up we have Princess. This is a very pale pearly pink with a lilac undertone. It's very finely milled and it has more of a satin finish rather than shimmer. It is what I'm using today mixed with this gold shade right here to highlight the inner tear duct of my eye look, and it really is very pretty. It has a soft texture and medium pigmentation. In the center of the top row we have the shade Violence. This is a very vibrant aubergine with a pink dual chrome shift. This shade is very pigmented and also true to pan. The pink shift to it also makes it a very unique purple to apply to your eyes. It does give you that very purpley and berry finish. This is what I'm wearing right now in the center of my mobile lid, and that's what's giving it a berry kind of sunset color. The formula of this shadow is very soft and finely milled, which ensures a very even application on the eyes. Next to that we have Rich Lady Dog. This is a shimmery gold shade which has a lot of shimmery particles within it. Now out of all of the eyeshadows within this palette, I think this one is probably the most disappointing one because it does have a very chunky formula. I think I definitely would have preferred this to be a little bit more finely milled, but it is very chromy, very reflective. To me this shade doesn't feel dry, but it feels more like a pressed pigment rather than a shimmery glitter eyeshadow. So the best way to work with this eyeshadow for me is to really work it in with the heat of my fingers, or to use it in conjunction with a Fix Plus or glitter glue. This shade does kick up quite a lot of fallouts due to its chunky formula, and a good way to fix that, as is with any eyeshadow that has a lot of fallouts, is to use a fan brush, dust it in lots of setting powder and just dust off any pigments on your face without disturbing the foundation underneath. Next up we have Courtney. This is a warm matte brown with lots of peachy undertones, and it's just such a brilliant, beautiful shade. It has a very finely milled, soft formula. It's very, very nice to use, and it's completely essential to this palette. It makes a very great transition shade for any look that I want to do, and that's the transitioning shade I'm wearing right now on the socket, in the socket area of my eyes. Now moving on to the second row, the first shade we have here is Expensive, which is a shimmery turquoise shade. Now I have to say this shade probably disappointed me most from this palette because I really wanted it to be a very emollient, soft, foily shade, but this has more of a matte texture as far as the formula of this shade is concerned. But as you can see from the swatches, it applied superbly well with a brush on top of a primer. So it really all depends on how you apply this eyeshadow. I would say much like this gold shade here, it works better and better the more you work heat and oil into this shade. Moving along, we have the shade Confession, and this is one of my favourite shades from the palette. This is a coppery metallic shade with a cranberry jewel chrome finish. It is so unique, really vibrant, very vivid, true to the pan, but also has a lot of depth to this shade. It has a very finely milled and soft formula. It's really nice to work with, and this is the shade I have on the outer corners of my eyes, taken into the inner third corner of my socket, and it's just so rich and pigmented. It's super easy to work with and really, really beautiful. And then in the middle we have Vanity. This is a deep matte brown with a strong purple undertone, and this is a super pigmented shade, and I would say it's pretty hard to blend out if you're a beginner in smoky eyes or anything with as dark as that. So I would suggest to lay down your transition shades such as Courtney first before you add on this shade as your smoke out outer corner shade. That would make blending so much easier. The formula of this is slightly on the drier side again, but you would not be disappointed with how pigmented this shade is. After that we have China White. This is my favourite matte shade out of the palette. It is a slightly off-white flesh colour and is super, super finely milled, extremely soft, very, very creamy, easy to use. It's super pigmented, and this is what I'm wearing to highlight my brow bone areas. I love a matte highlight that really shows through, and this one will not disappoint. The very last shade in the palette is called Black Rainbow. This is a matte black shade with tons and tons of rainbow coloured glitters inside. Now I haven't used this shade enough to tell you guys whether it kicks up a lot of fallouts or not, but as far as swatches are concerned, the glitters does blow off quite quickly if you weren't to use a glitter glue or a primer with it, or a Fix Plus, that is. So I would suggest to use any of those mediums to make sure the glitter does come through, shine through, and also stick with your eyes as well. Now that was all of the swatches taken care of. As far as longevity is concerned, all of these eyeshadows, as far as I'm aware, do last a long time. I've had 2 weeks to play with all of these shades, and one of the days I went to Brighton and I wanted to really test it out. I recorded the times I had these shadows on, and they lasted really well on top of my Holy Grail NARS smudge proof primer, and nothing budged the whole day. It was just as vibrant as the first minute I put these eyeshadows on. So longevity wise, there's nothing to worry about. Now onto some additional information about this palette. All of the eyeshadow shades in here are meant to be vegan and cruelty free, and this is part of the reason why I purchased this palette in the first place, because if you follow me on Snapchat you will probably have seen my extensive discussion about the ingredients carmine, which is crushed up beetles that's used in food, cosmetics and everything else to dye certain things red, blue, purple and all sorts of other colours. Now I am highly allergic to this ingredient. That's why I chose to buy this palette, thinking it probably wouldn't give me any allergic reactions, but sadly, as you can see from swatching this palette for the whole afternoon, it did come up with some red bumps on my arm, and this is the usual kind of reaction I'm getting now on my eyes if I were to use this palette consecutively for a whole week, which is what I did to test out this palette in order to give you a fairly thorough review. So I would say I do need to do a little bit more detective work into looking into these synthetic ingredients and see whichever ingredient that might be causing the upset on my skin. Also, most of you guys probably don't know I do suffer from chronic autoimmune disorder, which means my immune system is extremely overactive all of the time, so it attacks my body and makes me have allergic reactions to different things over a different period of time. So I could be allergic to one thing today and then not be allergic to it the next day. And also, just for reference, I am allergic to most of Too Faced eyeshadow palettes, if not all, and also a lot of the Colourpop eyeshadows that are red, bronze, purple or even pink, and a lot of Urban Decay's eyeshadows as well. But this is an ongoing process of me just learning which ingredients that I am allergic to, I am chronically allergic to. So please just bear that in mind. If you're someone who might suffer from the same thing, you might or might not be allergic to this palette. So after all that, overall I would give this palette a 7 out of 10. I like how thin it is, so the packaging makes it very travel friendly. As far as colour selection is concerned, I think it's a very, very pretty palette. You have some very neutral shades right here that you can easily create a daytime friendly look with, but overall I think it definitely is a palette for the daring. But if you're someone who uses neutral shades a lot more often, then this might not be your first choice, because it is quite limited as far as neutral eyeshadows are concerned. So this concludes my review for this palette. I hope you really enjoyed it. This has to be one of the hardest reviews I've ever had to film, because I really wanted to give you a completely thorough review for this palette, because there are so many mixed reviews out there for it. So I hope you really enjoyed it, and if you have, then please don't forget to give it a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. As per usual, please don't forget to find me on all other social media platforms under the name FoodishBeauty, where we can chat a little further about beauty, travel, fashion and food. Thank you ever so much for watching, guys. Take care and I'll see you next time. Bye!